The time is 6:42 p.m. Present in the room are Selectmen Bruce Mello, Stan Noga, and myself, Dot Maggio. Highway Supervisor Mark Bills is here. Our Fact TV videographer Steve is around, and it looks like Fact TV is online. And Peter Barris. Peter told me that he will have to probably get most of his work done. Are you going to be able to stay with us, or are you going to be doing Wyndham school system, Peter?
I have to do the WCSU board. They may be brief. I have no idea.
All right. Well, we will have this recorded for you in Fact TV, and if you can't find the link, just shoot me an email, and I'll send it to you like I did that last week. Okay.
Thanks.
All right. So we'll continue with the meeting. Any changes to the agenda at this time, Mr. Mello?
I'd like to take the 5A and move it to after the discussion of the budget, so we can decide after the road budget, so we can decide at that point what we need to do in terms of extra time.
All right, so move new business, basically,
Yeah.
to before item 8, reports and updates. Is that all right with you, Mr. Noga?
Yes, it is.
New business.
We already talked about that.
All right, we're moving new business to after the budget discussion.
Is there a payroll warrant for this meeting? Is
Site,
there a payroll warrant for this meeting?
yes, it came out. It came out on March 4th, November 4th.
Oh.
Right after our November 2nd meeting was
Alright.
the payroll.
You could look at it ahead of time.
Okay. good.
All right,
I'm
no other changes? Hearing none. Any members of scheduled or unscheduled? I had no scheduled members, and there doesn't seem to be any unscheduled. All right, moving along, we'll go to pay orders. First one I'll take a look at is accounts payable. I do have a question, but I will make the motion to start us off. I'd like to make a motion that we approve accounts payable warrant 2320 dated November 16th, 2022 in the amount of $7,762.63. May I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Noga. Discussion? I have one question, and I think I know the answer to it. Guy Nito delivered diesel fuel, and that went down to your shed?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what I was making sure that was diesel fuel for our shed. Any other discussion items for accounts payable? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving accounts payable warrant 2320 in the amount of $7,762.63 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. I'll pass this around for you to sign. Next, I'd like to make a motion that we approve payroll warrant 2219 dated November 4th, 2022 in the amount of $1,909.40. May I have a second? Seconded by Bruce Mello. Any discussion? I do. I just realized it says the check warrant report is 2219, but down at the bottom, it says the warrant number is 2023-17. So
Well, I think the way they're numbered in the last minutes, there was a 17A, but there was no 17.
well, this is 19 and 17. It's both on the same page.
Oh,
But this is payroll warrant 2320,
right.
and this says payroll warrant 2219.
look at the minutes, I think that what happened is because the $60 that was paid to myself for my
Right.
application for attendance to the VLCT fair was not, it was handled, there was clarity that was missing on the way it was interpreted and presented, which caused it to be built in and payable to another person.
However, I don't think it's the same question. I'm gonna show you. I have two different numbers, look.
I guess then that's,
Huh,
all I wanna say is that we had one for $60, which was 2318A last meeting. And then we had one for $1,836.38 that was 23-17.
So this one has 2317 on it
Okay, then that's,
and 22, 920. That's what I'm saying. These are two different numbers here and here.
I know that, and obviously one of them's gotta be wrong.
Well,
Irrespective of that, if the numbers come out okay, and looking at the numbers that have been used, 17 and 18A, it would almost seem logical to assume that 19 is a valid number.
all right, I will go with check warrant 22-19 as the official number. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving payroll warrant 22-19 dated November 5th, 2022 in the amount of $1,909.40 signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes.
Okay, there's a strange thing on the video screen.
Yes,
and,
there
uh,
is.
At this
There we
point,
go.
I have to check out. Might see you later, maybe not. Thanks.
Pass that down.
you signed it already, right?
I signed it.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, I thought so.
Payroll. Check numbers.
Thank you, Mr. Mello.
Anytime. That's good.
Okay, what new business has been moved, now we shall go to old business. Thank you. Old business driveway culvert policy package. Mark, we sent both to you and Archie the updated policy packet as amended packet for the town. We had a question about the, it shall not be less than 15 inches in one area, and then in another area, it said should not be less than 18 inches. Which is the size that you prefer?
I didn't get a hold of Archie to defer with him. The state had a recommendation for the 18-inch under a road, 15 on driveway.
All right, this is driveway.
Yeah.
So driveway is 15.
It was, and I think the town has an opportunity to change it to 18 if they wish.
What did they put up at McMaster's?
15.
So,
And the one that Mr. Bourne put in up on Putney Mountain.
Yeah,
18 or 15.
that was 15 inch.
Well, we can always change it if we find out later, or Mark learns or whatever, that 18 is the desired. I suspect there's a price difference of 18 versus a 15.
Yes, there is.
Significant.
I'm not sure of those numbers, but yeah.
Okay.
Diameter,
All right.
so different there.
um,
I thought Archie was gonna be here tonight. When he talked.
I did not hear, I don't know, I didn't hear from.
Yeah, well, we had talked about, budgeting different things and he said that he was gonna try to be here.
Okay.
So,
So he said 7:30 is when we had it on this calendar, agenda, so maybe we'll come later on. All right,
there's some places where 15 may not be right. Another place where 18 is way too big, so it's
Well, it's, the way it says on here on the overview, it says driveway culverts installed within the town's right of way shall not be less than 15 inches.
Yeah, that I agree with, not less than.
Right.
15.
Close to small.
And-
That's definitely should be a minimum.
Which
Should we
is,
table it till RT arrives?
I think that.
all right,
Yeah.
okay, let's table this. The next item will be very quick. On the agenda, it says a request for proposal, local hazard mitigation planning services, which I emailed out. I had misunderstood, or I had confused our local emergency management plan and the local hazard mitigation planning services as being one and the same, and they are not. Our local emergency plan, we have, and we're good on that. We redo that every year in April and approve it before May and send it to Wyndham Regional. This local hazard mitigation planning service is for a grant, and let me just summarize it here. I sent it to you late tonight. I just got this at 3:50. Brookline already has funding for that because the town applied through VEM to update the local hazard mitigation plan. Brookline has funding under FEMA's BRIC 2020 grant round, so you do not need to apply this year by December 9th. Goes on to say, they are looking for our Department of Public Works DPS web survey, which we tried to look at. Well, we sent it along to Melissa. Melissa completed it and sent us a copy of it. And when I communicated with Caroline Paskey today, she asked for the survey and I said, we completed it, here it is attached, and she was very happy. So we are okay with this plan and we don't have to do anything at this time. But those mitigation, this money can be used to plan for additional mitigation with the 75-25 FEMA grant coverage, which if FEMA does not cover the you know what I'm talking about, that last culvert thing, if this is something we can put in the mitigation grant. Okay, it's still through FEMA. All right, so we can move on then to budget planning. Unless you wanted to move up the roads and that.
I don't mind. If you want to get that other stuff out of the way right now, fine, because the way it appears is though there's a chance Archie might show up.
Okay,
So he will be, if that happens, it happens. If it doesn't, if it happens, he can be involved in the conversation, so.
all right, so you want to go back and put new business again?
No, that's what I meant.
I don't know what you're saying.
I think what you were pertaining to is the reports. and
Okay,
updates.
reports and updates.
Get that done, if that's what you want to do,
Um,
rather than doing that.
I do think we talked, all right, we didn't modify this agenda initially to move that ahead of the budget planning, but due to the time and the fact that Archie may be coming at 7:30, I think that's a prudent thing to do. So
Right.
please note that we are amending the agenda to cover right now reports and updates. Mark, you want to give a brief summary of
Yeah, I think that's what I've been doing. So prepping for winter, we now have two loads of road salt up into the salt shed.
Hopefully we don't need it.
Knowing that possible there was gonna the chance for a shortage, we pushed in as far as we could. We have two loads now in the shed, and it appears like we could fit a third load.
well, that's what I wanted to ask. I didn't know about the shed's capacity. And
Yeah,
I wanted the select board to consider whether they wanted to order a third load at this time.
yeah, I'm pretty sure we've been getting just a straight dump truck load rather than a trailer truck load. It's easier for them to maneuver into the shed.
So they get like a 7 yard instead of like a 15 to 16.
Well, this is 22 tons per load. It's like a 16, well, somewhere near a 16-yard dump truck.
Oh,
A
that's great.
triaxle under the back for capacity. And it measures 22 to 23 tons roughly per load, depending on the actual.
So you're thinking a third load that size?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm looking at the bill here and it was $1,960.
That was for one load.
I'm just trying to see here, net weight 46,000 pounds. 20
That's the last receipt in it. I'm not sure. This is the second load.
Yeah, this was delivered, this was delivered on the 9th, that's the 11th. So this load will also be 22, okay, gross power net. And does it say the cost of it, or are they gonna send us a
No,
bill? They
they
send us a
didn't.
bill, all right, so one bill, it's gonna be so this was $2,000, we're gonna have another 2,000, do we wanna go for $6,000?
The reason we were trying to stockpile is, they claim the trains might slow up progress due to the strike. that-
We budgeted for
And,
it.
our stockpile from Cargill is stockpiled in Rockingham beside the railroad. And usually there's a pile that is bigger than the building that's there, which is bigger than a football field. There's no salt showing up there. I mean, what I mean is you can't see it from Route 5. And normally it's a mountain with a tarp on it that is just impressive.
We budgeted for it, right?
I talked to Tim Barrett from the trucking company and I asked him about this and he said they have been concentrating on their northern supply and they now have that filled and now they're gonna start trying to fill the Rockingham location. Which, you know, it comes in on rail, they also bring trucks down and but from what I've gathered, there's no big pile, so
I have no problem, I think we're gonna at least go through 3 loads for the whole winter, and you're asking for budgeting for it. This was in the last year's budget, which has been stretched. I don't know, yes,
Well, we can't mess around, so.
right. So what do you think? Should we approve of the
If
third
we
load?
have the funds for it, it sounds very logical to do it now. God only knows what's gonna happen in the month or two.
Right.
Well, okay, so I think that's continue with the ordering and,
It was what, $87 a ton or something like that?
Yes.
87,
8450.
84.50, okay.
um,
So that we didn't cap a number.
No.
So we just.
on an average year,
Sorry.
I think we had to give them an estimated usage of tonnage, and I think we were around 175 tons.
Mhm.
So if we're at 60 to 70, we're, you know, in good shape going into the winter.
Sounds pretty.
All right, I think due to that concern, I think I'll let you
Yeah,
take care of this too, because
Yeah,
that back.
I did these to Judy. She
Okay.
asked for all receipts, so I'll list the Judy.
Okay,
So we have, the sand shed is now full. And we have room for the third load of salt. I took the leaf blower around after, the wind and rain have knocked 98% of the leaves off. And boy, the thing is, it's impressive. It worked so good. There's places where you can't use it, where it's residential and people have already raked their lawns, so. But the places that you can use it, it pays for itself and. Yeah, so it allows you to be able to grade the road without pulling leaves in and messing up the road. Pine needles, in the fall. So it really opened up a lot of opportunity. I actually, after the leaves were all blown, I took the grader out and just kind of touched everything up that was rough and, just a one-way trip on every road and then one-way back, so both sides of the roads.
Okay, good.
Knowing that we're getting into freezing weather and hopefully things freeze into a good condition for plowing. Yeah, been cleaning up. We have had some more tree issues with the wind, so we're cleaning up trees. I think since I last saw there, I took the sign off and painted it. It's not reflective, but,
Oh, the arrow sign, I did see
Yeah.
that, that's up, yep.
Let's see. There's probably lots of little details. One of the things, I wanted to talk about was the recycle bin there, the way they've been abusing the situation, but me and Dot had talked a little bit on that and,
I'll bring that up in my
The
report real
cameras.
quickly.
yeah.
Cameras you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, and,
And here too.
I also, it appears like it's filling up quicker and quicker in between phone calls, so that's something when we get ready to budget. I don't know. I was
Yeah.
doing like every 7 days, but it appears like it fills up every 5 now.
At this time of year, it's kind of a lot.
And I'm not sure about the trucking end of it. It appears like they might be swamped, maybe short of help. And when I first started monitoring it, it came like that afternoon or the next morning, and now it's taken like 3 days from the call to the delivery. If it's near the weekend, it's 5 days. And I'll get through the weekend and then on Monday. So I just wanted to,
We'll just try to keep that area as clean as possible to prevent animals and things.
sure, okay. And the other thing is the amount of, non-recyclables that people are putting in there. I'm not sure if I've never seen a bill or heard how they bill, and I'm wondering if we're getting charged for the stuff that gets put in that's not recyclable.
Guys, who knew.
Yeah, if we could, I don't know, it shows up on a bill. I know there's a trucking fee to exchange each,
Yeah, well, the trucking fee isn't, that's from the driver,
but once they
Yeah.
sort it, do they charge us for anything that's non-recyclable that they have to? That's just a question I had.
With Dan Tower.
what happens is if you can condemn the whole truckload if it's contaminated. And it's not recyclable materials, they're not going to hand pick through hoses and buckets and
Oh, boy.
window frames and toys.
Okay.
That's the problem, and this is one of the
Yeah.
things we put it on the agenda for the town to vote as a separate appropriation, and we can discuss this again.
Yeah.
And they will vote yes or no, whether or not they want to continue to expend the money. We didn't spend as much last year as we thought we would.
No.
I'm not exactly sure where we're at this right this second, but in the meanwhile, nothing we can do except make sure that we keep it clean and.
So it sounds like, we are in danger of having a,
Sure.
what, the recycle bin left in place until we find out our own solution to cleaning it up? Or will they take it and bill us more? And who's gonna act on it to follow up on it?
I don't know what do you
You
mean?
know, I was collecting a lot of stuff at the town garage, and then when we got a load, I would take it down and get a bill. But just monitoring, as I'm cleaning up outside the recycle bin and look in there, I'm seeing stuff that shouldn't be in there. And even with the new signage that we put
Which you
up,
did a good job on. It looks good.
they don't, reach right past that sign and clothing and like the garden. hose.
Well, maybe we should put up a sign, if you don't stop putting junk in there, we'll take the dumpster away.
Well, I guess that raises a question of A, should we relocate the camera that we currently have? Or B, should we purchase a second one?
you have a camera?
I would like to talk about that out of the meeting only because of the security concerns. Mark and I already talked about it before
Okay.
you all came in. I was here at 6 o'clock. So.
Sounds like a good
Okay,
idea.
so triple T, swap outs are 155 a swap out, and triple T does that swap out, and I don't see here, anything else from the, recycling costs. They didn't send us a bill here.
Maybe figured that some of that was.
Yeah, so maybe come in the next bill might be.
So I guess my question then is, are we gonna wait till we get that bill to find out what's gonna happen, or do you wanna get it beforehand?
What do you mean, what's going to happen?
Well, I'm hearing, I may have misunderstood what was said in the last 2 minutes. It could be that I was interpreting it that we don't know whether we're being charged for the contaminated items, the non-recyclable items that are in there. And so my first response would be, we need to ask somebody. But I'm hearing that we're gonna wait for something to develop.
I have a feeling that Guy would know the answer to that, because he's been doing it for years, before Mark took over. Guy might have the answer to that.
All right, what I was saying was that if you have a contaminated load, they're not going to give us any money for buying our recycling. But it's still that, then it gets put into a dump, then it gets incinerated.
Mhm.
But you're saying David Jones or Guy or Dan Towler would be better off to explain this, so,
I don't know how often we send payment to them if it's.
all right, I'll check and put this on the agenda for the next time. We'll talk about contaminated loads and recycling. Okay? All right, good point. I am gonna bring this up real quick. I know this has to do with roads and highways. It was the concern about Harris Hill and the repairs. We approved $2,000, but Archie estimated it's closer to $5,500. And so we haven't done anything on it because it's quite high. And my question is, should I contact the person in concern and tell them that we would have to wait until another budget year or another better weather to do this? Is it extremely dangerous? Does would a signage that we can get made up at Staples do for temporary to warn people, or driveway markers or something? What would you suggest?
Again, I wish that Archie was here because it has some effect on snow plowing, if the snow plow gets over too far and drops. And get caught on the pavement edge, but also cars that may flip backwards there and slip the going or skid into the ditch.
As an appraiser, I've gone around
I know you would.
Marlboro, Halifax, Waynham. They have a policy of where there's areas of danger. Like I noticed when I went up Whitney Hill after I looked at Harris Hill, there are 3 locations on Whitney Hill that just drop off, and there's a culvert. And at the end of those 3, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I'm wondering if it might assist in the fear that exists about the danger of it, to just drive as pieces of wood, thin sticks of wood, or I think Marlboro uses little thin trunks of small trees to cut them off, deal in it, and pound them in the danger area, so that it's an indicator to the plowing device and people, and an indicator to the citizens that you should keep away from this area because there's a reason to stick a steer.
Yeah.
And from a liability standpoint, does our insurance in situations like that require a sign to relieve liability in the event something does happen? Which is another concern I would have, since we know there's an issue there. So those are the 2 things I think that are most important, that are cheap, no cost. I assume that I saw that there had been sand that has come down the hill and filled in some portions of that. I understand it's probably a perfect solution, I assume that the $5,000 thing is a perfect solution. Is there anything that can be done? I mean, the only way the drop off is gonna be eliminated if it's completely regraded. And it be regraded on the lesser slope up to where the macadam ends. And so is that the only fix that,
Well,
I mean,
see,
yeah,
when I estimated a $2,000 fix, I was looking at it as the town doing it with a machine, like, we already have the machine, it's a day, less than a day work,
mhm.
a couple loads of stone.
You're talking about the 4-wheel excavator that we had? or- okay.
Yeah, 4-wheel excavator and maybe 2 truckloads of stone to, clean up the ditch and then line it with stone.
Yeah.
Pack it up against the road shoulder. And, that's why my estimate was lower.
But you knew we didn't have an excavator when you suggested that, because that would be a next summer project.
Right, yes,
That's
yeah.
what we're asking.
So yeah, to save money, waiting would be the way to go. We can mark it.
Market, you have orange fluorescent tape that you can put on the stakes.
Yeah,
I mark my
I
driveway for
mean,
my flower.
it may interfere with snow plowing, as you plow to the edge, but then as the snowbanks get higher, they may get tipped over or knocked over.
Well, he could hit the sticks instead of the mailboxes, you're saying.
Right, yeah,
Well, that's the nice part of it. There are no mailboxes on this.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that he's gonna hit. The issue is if he knows where they are, and he's already drawn a line by where his plow is gone to avoid the sticks. The likelihood of, since he's probably gonna be focusing on that more so than some of the other stretches of road, because there is a danger element there. I think we could stretch it to a time where it's more important to us. That's just my personal view.
yeah. Now, I didn't blow the leaves off from that, as I said, I went around town and first opportunity to do it there, but I kind of was under the assumption that the rain may flow in the leaves, it may not.
Yeah, I agree.
The erosion.
Yeah.
So I guess the whole beginning, the main concern was the private owner up in there. His concern.
Harrisville.
Yeah, Harrisville was the fact that it was undermining pavement and may cause for the destruction of pavement, but, I assume we're gonna have freeze and everything's gonna be
Yeah.
in that condition.
That could be something for that brick hazard mitigation
Yeah.
grant.
Yeah,
That would be
it may
ideal.
fall under.
And that would be-
mitigation, yeah.
You can buy, I know at Perkins, they're 72 inches, I just bought them, this orange and gray reflective thin poles that you put into the grounds versus, which will be not as damaging to a plow truck if they hit it, it would just break or fold over versus a trunk, something big, I don't know. If whatever you think is best, but if you could mark that for
Market.
Yeah. wherever you think that there's a hazard. Yeah. And we'll make a list of these that we need to remember for
Yes.
our summer plans.
Right, yes, budget for them to.
Okay. All right, well, thank you, Mark. Anything else? We'll talk more about
Yeah.
budget when we get into with Archie gets to come by.
I'm sure we can talk all night about-
Okay.
But no, we're good.
All right.
Is there a time that you are available? I don't know if you got the email that
I did.
Fred Aldrich sent back. He said
Oh.
flexible Monday. Just let him know the time.
What Monday was?
22nd.
21st.
Oh, 21st, all right.
Okay, yeah, there was 2 dates and,
18.
yeah, I can make myself available. Yeah.
Okay, the question is, what time does everyone want to do this?
I have
Morning,
Anytime.
afternoon,
morning is fine. I'm gonna get it done with.
10 o'clock? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
10 o'clock on Monday.
Yeah, I will advise.
And then-
Yeah.
Here in this, at the conference room.
Well, I assumed you wanted to look at the road, but I can invite him here. No,
Yeah,
we'll drive off.
we'll coordinate
Tell him
here.
come here. Okay. so-
Otherwise, we'll be standing out there.
I appreciate your willingness to attend, Mark. I have no idea what's gonna be thrown in our direction. And if we get some kind of cockamamie excuse that doesn't make any sense, I'm gonna feel very positive about you being there to look at him or us and say, I don't understand. Can you clarify that, or whatever the proper polite term is to
Yeah, I mean,
question something?
I'll give
Makes
you much
sense.
knowledge as they have.
Yeah, great. That's very much appreciated.
And FEMA guy said, once you square away what's going on with the company, then he'll talk to us about the best way of completing the 2 lanes that have not been completed.
Okay.
But let's work on this one problem at a time. And, so that's what he suggested. So I can tell him that on the 21st, November 21st, we're gonna review that. Okay, excellent.
Thank you.
And we still have that check.
Yeah, as far as I know.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, Stan, anything, other highway grants report?
Yeah. We got the all states. Let's see. I've done a sheet that outlines some of the match money, some of the things to be considered for our budgeting. There's one other thing that I'd like to, it's 2 issues, but I can do it in one concept. We have a grant that on Hill Road that we need to close out. And in theory, the town is supposed to do it on its own. But Jeff, in the process of our discussion when he was here with Mark and myself, he offered, since he had in the past, to help us settle it up, close it out. And looking at what my role in this board is becoming, and it would mean I would be trying to familiarize myself with the process, and essentially, unless we take an option, which I'm going to ask the board to consider and approve tonight, it would mean that I would be the person opening up, filing all the initial paperwork, defining the scope, et cetera, sending it in, and then when it closes out, I would be the person closing it out. And I know that others who have been here, who have been involved with the highway, have not really entertained that to the point where it's been historically, Jeff Nugent of Wyndham is the guy that's been doing it all. Okay, so I don't know how much I'm going to be able to continue. I've got another year ahead. I would like to see an even division of work if possible, or getting somebody on. And I, at this point, don't know what, I'd like to continue the second year. But even if I do, and I'm leaning toward it, it would mean that if I left, there'd be nobody to do it. And it's clear to me that my first introduction to some of the T60 forms, et cetera, it was clear to me that nobody has been involved in that other than pretty much Jeff Nugent doing it for people in the town. So that I don't leave anybody high and dry. I don't want to lead anybody to believe that I'm going to do it ad infinitum forever and ever. And the most logical and fair thing to do, in light of the fact that that needs to be closed out before the end of the year. We got budget stuff. We've got to look into the auditing stuff being done timely, and I've offered to do the town report. So that I'm starting to feel just stressed as the time is coming on, in addition to what I normally do, which seems at times prolific. So what I would like to do is ask that the town of Brookline take Wyndham Regional up on executing a supportive work tech sheet, whereby for up to $1,500, they would take care of the initial work of this grant that's coming up for this coming year. It's a $12,500 grant. I think our match is $3,125, and just let them do the whole thing.
Amen.
And the story.
Amen. We don't have any administrative assistants
That's
here,
not-
and we have to
And
hire.
you can use the
investors.
grant to pay whatever we're billed from up to a cap of $1,500. So that's where I'm coming from. So the one that we just are in the process of hopefully finishing out, one of the ladies from Winter Region will be up this coming week Thanksgiving week of all times. And she wants to go over Hill Road. She wants to go over any other segment in town that you have done this past year, so she can upgrade the map. She's willing to do that.
We had sent Jeff the written GPS and the summaries of those updates. But now she wants to photograph them, so that would be,
I think.
Okay.
I would make
Okay.
that point.
So is there a day next week? And you don't have to answer now, maybe after the meeting, or I can call you between now and Friday and say, if you come up with time that you can handle this in and assuming that I don't have anything going on that day, that you're free,
Yeah.
set something up for this coming week or the week after to take care of all of that. So she can close it out. It has to be done by December 31st,
I would
and they
like-
like it sooner than that. could be.
I'm all for getting it completed and I will make myself available unless something should,
Okay.
try to show up. I'm pretty flexible at this
Okay.
point.
So I have already filled in this form that I want the board to,
Okay.
I've regarded the town of Brookline, you can take a look at it. I've signed it as administrative highway person, I dated it today's date, and if it's okay with you, then
I got it.
I would say that I would like to scan it in for the records here in the town and also send the
no,
scan.
I approve of having Wyndham Regional assist in supportive work and technical assistance for our grants. This is perfect, thank you very much, Stan.
You're welcome.
Yeah, good job.
Okay, thank you. So that's, I guess, unless I'm forgetting something, I could be, who knows? That's all I have to say this evening. Thank you.
And we see Melissa, we see that you're here, we're just finishing up a couple of loose ends and then we'll go into budget shortly.
Oh, sure, no worries. Thank you.
Okay. Building, okay, anything else, Stan? Yes, you set up quite a nice set of spreadsheets. I was putting them together, this in the last month.
Yeah, that's the updated grant summary of history and current.
Mhm.
The oldest at the bottom, the newest at the top. I've updated it. The things that are in it, and Melissa was sent a copy as well, so Melissa and Judy and the board have access to it. I know that Guy Tanza had created one, so I've kept him in the loop as well, so he knows what's going on, should someone come in and ask any question over the counter.
Mhm.
So the only thing that I think we need to modify is, that is for grants, and ARPA is kind of a grant, but usually with grants,
You pay it back.
you get a reimbursement, or there's a match or whatever, and ARPA doesn't match it. I mean, I can put it in a separate place on the sheet, or I can simply do another sheet for ARPA monies only, where there may be a delineation of what it went for and so forth, so that any disbursements that are made, I can track and follow.
If you could separate it out, this way, if we have borrowed or moved ARPA money from ARPA account to salaries, and then if we move some back, we just keep track of it so that we know the sum total of
Right.
expenditures or obligations to that would be ideal.
Like specifically with Mark's, it's $27,000 in this instance.
Right,
Okay, I'll do that.
excellent, all
So,
right,
yes.
because I can understand that ARPA's it is a little different, yeah. Okay.
That was my major concern. There is help with state and Wyndham Regional for certain things, Wyndham short term. And if we enter this agreement long term, which will I think make my life and the stresses and strains of that on top of the normal everyday thing that just keeps popping up for
Yeah,
you and I in particular,
right.
it gives me a little easier sleep at night.
Absolutely, and I do think that it's
idea.
appropriate expenditure. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. Building commissioner,
Okey dokey. Mr. Bills and I finished the work that we needed to do for the wallpaper and the tile. It was done clearly before November 7th. Stephanie is very pleased. We probably wouldn't hear from an inspector for another 4 years. So that's out of our hair. I called code again about servicing the boilers, and I can't get used to this. I've had business with them for 30 years to come and take a look at my boiler. I'm really having a hard time. Nobody has any help. every 5 minutes, somebody's quitting, the same people are not there the second time. So as far as code and code goes, I went right straight to Tucker, he's the one that oriented the work for last winter, kind of reminding them in a nice way, we spent $11,000. I don't want this SOP board pulling up on me and hasn't been service. I said it all in a nice way. And she's keeping me in mind so that you can try and fit Sean or somebody to get over here and take a look at it. But one thing that I've noticed in my normal look-see every week when I go over there is that the pneumonia hole seems to be staying open. That pneumonia hole is where the vents are, that opens up before the gas comes on, and it seems to be staying open. And that's an adjustable thing. And I'm not adjusting it. I'm trying to get them over here to do it. Lastly, Mark and I are doing a lot of maintenance between the two buildings. And we'll update you as we do them, but the thing we're going to do next is that room where the air exchanger is, so we don't have a freezing issue.
That's
Mark-
up in the attic.
Yeah, Mark and I have already talked about, we have a little plan, and within the next 3 weeks or so, we should make a dent into the things that we were thinking about. Oh, and since it's part of the building thing, it's gonna come up about, Mark is suggesting that we put a camera here and a second camera down at the, down.
Say where we're gonna put them.
Oh, we're not, we're gonna put it on my house.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's right, I'm sorry. Yes, later. That's it for me.
All right, thank you very much, and let us know about code and code, because that's a little disturbing.
Well,
I don't know if we
waiting
have
for a
it.
bill for their service agreement, I haven't seen that yet.
Question?
Yes,
I do get online the Brattleboro Reformer, and there have been a number of ads from Sandra out of Greenfield, who has been a large entity for years. That I don't know if they'd be interested in taking over the school boilers or not. No,
No, I'm gonna tell you why. I'll give you a real quick
Yeah.
answer. They don't do commercial buildings. I swear to God, this is a year ago when I tried to get them for a service agreement for that
Yeah.
building. But I can't even get it. I've been done business with them for 32 years,
Sandries or code and code?
Sandry,
Okay.
and I'm having a hard time getting them up here.
Okay.
And they know it. They know that
Yeah.
I bought oil and service my system 2000.
Code and
33
code
years.
is supposedly the company in charge of the heating system
That's correct.
over there. We had agreed that we
Correct.
would not have other companies come in
Correct.
and change things around. So,
If something happens, it's off the charts. The pressure goes on. I've been nice to this point, but it'll be like, you guys need to get your
well, we.
butt over here. We spent $11,000 on it. Let's go. I don't care about anybody else.
I have a sense
Now we'll get nasty.
that the fact that there is a second heating system there.
They don't know it.
They weren't involved.
They don't know it.
Anything about that.
They haven't seen it. They
They
haven't
haven't been in the.
They have not been in that
building
building since they were installed.
Okay.
No, unless they saw them driving by, but no,
Okay.
they had no.
How is that
Scary.
system working?
They're happy. They're
Okay.
happy to pay the shit. Okay.
All right,
So you got any more questions related to that? So I'm keeping an eye on that
Thank you
boiler
for
room.
handling.
But while I'm keeping an eye on that boiler room, that's got me a little annoying, but whatever. We'll just
Mr. Tanz's here now.
one thing at a time.
all right,
Okay.
we're just gonna finish up on these
You
things.
want to do you, right?
Yep, oh, we're right now, we can do town clerk report. It's
Up
right-
to you.
Right, okay, Guy? We are,
Yes.
Oh, it's
you
on
are, we
there.
are right there, item 8D, you are on town clerk report, budget suggestions, requested,
Outside.
questions. So if you wanted to go over your budgetary concerns, and then we'll finish up on the other reports, go ahead.
Guy?
Yes,
Okay,
Busy.
you wanted to discuss what budgetary needs the town office requires for next year for us to put in the budget?
Yeah, I guess at this point, I would just like to mention the fact that our computers are very old and very slow. And we have 4 of them, and they're, I think, anywhere from 8 to 12 years old. And I think it's time that we consider replacing them because they're just non-functional. I mean, I guess they're functional, but they're antiquated.
Have you any idea, our monitors in that are new, but you're saying the CPU units themselves.
I think at this point, I'm considering, I'm looking at towers. We don't need monitors. And I
Right,
think
towers.
we can probably get a good tower anywhere between $600 and $800. I'm a big Dell fan. I like the way they perform. I've had a lot of success with them. The town has had a lot of success with them. And I think it's time that we start. Hello?
Yes,
We're all listening. We're all,
go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Are you there?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
We're
Okay,
here.
I don't know. There was a little something happened. At any rate, so that's one of the things I think that should be considered. Other than that, I've been really careful with supplies and so forth because I use the town credit card and go to Walmart in Hinsdale. And I can get better deals on paper and supplies than I can get at Office Supply or Staples. So, and I've also been able to save the town some money by negotiating a contract with the printer company. We went from $125 a month to $95 a month for the lease. So, I think the town is done very well under these conditions with the COVID and everything else. I think we've been frugal. I think we've been careful. And I think, to wait much longer for updates might not be a good idea.
All right, so you're looking at approximately $3,000 additional added to the budget that was approved last year for.
Right, but if you notice on my budget, or if you look on a budget, you'll see that we've only spent $2,000 this year. And basically, I think if we up the budget by $1,000, we can be frugal enough, unless postage gets crazy, but we could be frugal enough to get away with that and to be able to get the new computers.
Okay, so you're saying that we only need to increase the budget, your line item, approximately $1,000, and we would be able to upgrade our computer servers.
Yes, I firmly believe that.
All right, very good. Anything else, Guy, that you wanted to share with us?
Well, I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the Select Board, the Board of Civil Authority, for all the help that everyone did, including Dave Jones and Paul Madalinsky and Samar Swick for helping make the election go as smoothly as it did. It was a challenging election, but we had 282 voters in the town, which represents about 61%. All the results were on the website the night of the election or early morning. So I just wanted to thank you all because I know I didn't thank you the way I should have when you left, but I think we were all tired. It was a long 14-hour day, but I think we've done very well. And I'd also like to thank Melissa Brown for her delinquencies are down to less than $1,300, and she's done a great job there. So I think the town is in good shape, but going forward, I'm looking at, increases of everything we do is costing us more money, and I'm not sure how a small town is going to survive, but I guess we'll keep trying.
Well, Guy, thank you again. I know it was a lot of work setting up and you had every supply available to us. The only thing that was a problem was the location of the pencil sharpener, but other than that, I think it's easy to deal with.
Well, again, thank you. It's really been a pleasure.
yeah, thank you, Guy. It was, you have a good handle on things like that, so appreciate it very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, so we'll note that change or note that when we discuss the budget for that part of the fund. Appreciate it. If there's not anything else, I'll move on to the next item. You good?
I'm good, yes.
All right, very good.
Thank you.
I'll go on to do my select board report. I just wanted to get on the record that there was, concern about the vandalism of the town sandwich board sign that indicated the date of the voting. You know, someone got lots of fun changing the words around to be slightly obscene. But some residents walked over and tried to fix it to the best of their ability. That's a problem. And as Mark had pointed out, there's also been a lot of abuse of the recycling container and what people are putting in there. And we do have informative signs there. However, we might need to increase some additional security there as well. I'm going to continue on. The other thing that we talked about at the last board meeting, and we came in to do the Department of Public Services risk assessment survey. It was a little bit more complicated than we thought we could handle. And I asked Melissa Brown to do it, and she did it very quickly and submitted it and sent us each a copy of it. I was in contact today with the state rep and let her know that everything is up and running, and that was with the BRIC grant, as I mentioned earlier. We have it from 2020, and so that's for our hazard mitigation update for our hazard mitigation plan, which I was confusing with the local emergency management plan. So that was just my old head. Melissa also sent to us the Vermont Agency of Transportation fiscal year 2023 sub-recipient assessment, which was submitted in the beginning of March. Appreciate that. There's a lot of reports, I guess, that goes on that we didn't know that went on when Samara or treasurer would do it, and then it comes to my email, and I'm not sure what it is. So I appreciate everybody's help when we divvy up these assignments. But other than that, I have nothing else except to continue with our select board meeting. Is there any other report or discussion from the select board, Mr. Mello?
Okay, it's good, Melissa. You can hear me, Melissa?
I can, yes.
Okay, what I'm pertaining to is I got a situation where Mark can get an IRA with his 802 credit union in Townsend. I had spent some time yesterday talking to the manager, and basically how it's set up is that Mark would have to open a very simple form to open an account up there, Mark, and minimum deposit is $500. Now, saying that,
Original opening amount.
if it had been Edward Jones, it would have been $5,000. And saying that, you're gonna be getting a gross check for $900, I think it is, yes, for your vacation pay that we owe you for. So we'll talk about the details. Most of it's your business, but we can talk about the details more thoroughly later as far as what to do about that. I'm glad Melissa's here because in case I say something stupid, Melissa, you can tell me if I am. But this is for year end, June 30th. And you have up to $1,000 that you can get, but you have to put in the money first as a match. You want to explain that better, Dot?
Yeah, I would like to bring the board's attention to the invoice number 1 that I passed out before the meeting started. And invoice number 1 can be modified or edited, but I'd like to get it done before December. It says the Brookline Select Board authorizes a payment of $900 to eMark bills as per the agreement made and voted on at a special meeting held on Thursday, August 12th, 2021. The payment of $900 can be broken down to $30 an hour for 30 hours, which is the maximum number of hours authorized for 1 week's work for eMark bills as the highway supervisor for the town of Brookline. This is known as vacation pay. Attached is a copy of the agenda and the minutes in which that was approved by the select board back in August of 2021. I do understand that this payment, vacation pay, does require the taxes to be taken out of that, correct?
Yes.
Correct, Melissa?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, so I can modify this invoice to say taxes,
$900 minus taxes.
$900 minus appropriate tax deductions. And what other, besides taxes, what gets taken out of salary?
Well, it was I think, social security, FICA, possibly,
Medi, federal,
yeah,
state.
yeah.
So what's
Depends
a
on how
good,
much you.
what's a good word to use instead of listing out all of those things?
I would just say state and federal taxes.
There you go.
Is Mark being subject to unemployment taxes as well?
Yes.
No, well, no, those wouldn't come out of his paycheck. Those just come out of the VLCT, or yeah, the VLCT dues that you guys pay.
That has
Okay,
nothing to do with them.
all right,
That's a business.
Or not the dues, but the invoice. It's
okay.
like a weekly amount.
All right, so I would like the select board's permission once edited and retyped. That this is an approvable invoice that you might stop in the next few days. I'll let you know. I'll put it on the counter. I'll put it in a select board mailbox and you can sign. The third person to sign it, please put it in Judy's mailbox so that it will be
The
invoiced.
inbox.
The inbox.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
I also wanted to make a point of invoice number 2. I'd like
We
to
should
read
let
that.
Judy know that that's for payroll and not for accounts payable.
Yes, I'll put it, okay, payroll. It does say pay, okay. Invoice number 2 that I typed up again, it has to be modified slightly. It says the Brookline Select Board authorizes a payment of blank to the 802 Credit Union IRA account owned by eMark Bills as per the agreement made and voted on at a special meeting held on Thursday, August 12, 2021. The payment can be broken down to be equal to, but not more than 5% of the gross income earned between September 1st and June 30th, 2022. I'm not going to mention the gross amount, but it's written down, what gross amount, and then
We'll
what
give you a
5%.
copy.
Yeah, and what 5% is equal to. The town will match the contribution eMark Bills makes to his private IRA account with 802 Credit Union up to a certain amount. And I have it written down here. So once you get a IRA open, please let us know what our match is. And so that we can provide the invoice to the treasurer to match it. So this is invoice 1 that we were just talking about, and then this is the suggested invoice number 2.
And we'll have to know whether this is a Roth or a traditional IRA because they're
Correct.
taxed differently.
Correct.
Correct. And so once they open it, they're gonna have to come in and share that. Bruce has offered to help coordinate that with the treasurer's office.
Whatever we have to do. Mark? Yeah. I want to really be clear, this is really important. You're being given, no, you weren't given anything. You earned your vacation pay, but you're gonna have to open up the account with $500. You are basically,
Or whatever he wants us to match.
that's correct. So whatever you put in there, we can match up to the first, to June 30th of the figure $1,012.
We're not supposed to give
Oh,
that.
sorry. Okay, sorry. Well, it just, I didn't say it's an income,
Okay,
so whatever, but you'll have a copy this month.
he does. I just
Okay,
gave
you got any questions, you will relate. Does Melissa have any concerns about it?
So this
No.
invoice number 2, if I can
Okay.
ask a question, is purely for the arrearages that we haven't done yet.
It
Correct.
is for the
June
first
30th.
year, and this will fall into this year's,
Okay,
yes, before December, correct.
I'm assuming that you're,
Next year will be the same time next year. I
Which
guess.
one are you talking about?
Number 2.
so
That's
this will
for
not,
June 30th,
I'm sorry,
correct?
Huh?
This is for last year, correct?
correct,
Yeah, June 30th is still in the year 2022,
Okay,
So- still in the same 12-month 2022 period.
okay, I was thinking June fiscal year, okay.
Yeah, just I know, fiscal year, we would like to be, yeah, it happened right after.
When we pay them, it's.
Yeah,
more-
next year, hopefully, we won't
we're
have this
smooth
delay.
out, Right,
We won't have a delay.
right.
there's other things I could ask, but I won't take up.
Yeah, this is.
We can talk about this another time.
Right,
Yeah,
I will
okay.
put on the agenda invoice number 2 for the second, for our next board meeting. If you have opened the IRA, we can then clarify that at that
Okay,
time.
you need to see Kayla You know her, don't you?
Yeah.
She's the manager, she knows it, she is sweet on the lady, God. So well, about the numbers and stuff, we'll do that privately.
Okay, any other reports or discussions from the select board at this time? If not, we will move into the budget planning session.
That sounds great.
All right, now we'll move into the budget planning session.
Just want to say thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, Mark. You work hard. You deserve it.
You deserve it.
Need to take care of good people.
Yep, that's a.
Okay, so we're looking at item 7, budget planning session, approximately 45 minutes, so we should go till about 8:30. Highway roads budget. First of all, I made some notes here and you can say yes or no. I'm not even looking at the checklist, but do we have any changes in the staffing needs? Are we going to consider financing or budgeting for assistance from Mark? Mark, if you need someone to work with, I know you've had your dad, but yeah.
He's not as available as.
Yeah, and with your mom, yeah, so,
Way to put this, I think I got this right, because we discussed this. I think we need to try and consider with Mark, somebody that will work with him. Sorry, Mark, I have a real problem with you going out all hours and not having somebody have your back. You can have all the cell phones in the world, but if you trip and hurt yourself or cut yourself with a chainsaw, you got nobody.
Right.
Believe me, I know this. But anyway, with that intent, we've been kind of talking for the last year and a half about getting, and I've always wanted to have him have some help, no matter how we do it. And if you have somebody in mind, I'm stepping out of the side of the other two people here, but if you have somebody in mind that we considered that could help us, help you on a temporary basis, not temporary basis, a less hours basis, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
That would be great.
an assistant for the road, yeah, someone to assist you in times when you need a second person. And we need to consider the cost of that when we're doing our budget, so let's bring that to your attention. We currently, there's 3 things I have under salary and staffing, and one is the road commissioner stipend. And also highway grant supervisor stipend. I know, Stan, you've been doing an awful lot of work, and I certainly don't think that the town can afford to lose you and all the work you're doing, even though some of it will go to help. Some Wyndham Regional, we've authorized to help in certain areas, but I would like to see an additional stipend for the grant supervisor, which is $500. I'm also going to ask when we do the building commissioner for a stipend as well. It's not, you can refuse it. I think we need to put it in. And
I think this man right here does a huge amount of work.
But I'm saying these stipends, you, just like our select board, you can refuse your stipend, you can donate it back to the town or donate it to a charity of your choice or
Keep
give
it.
it, yeah, or keep it. But I do think it's something that I'd like the select board to consider when we're doing our,
Okay,
that.
okay.
Very other quick, then we're gonna go through the list. but I
Stan,
just-
do you have any? You've been kind of shut out in this. Do you have anything, any opinion related?
I, nothing that I'm gonna express at the moment.
Okay.
I had made a note too to add to the budget. I think all of you put in so many hours and get nothing out of it. And like was mentioned, there's not many volunteers coming forward anymore for these town jobs. And I think that there should be some reward of some sort for you guys for all the hours you spend pursuing stuff.
We do get a stipend,
Yeah, but.
not much,
But
but
that doesn't even begin to cover the amount of hours that you're out here working for the town.
well, one of the other things that at some point we hope to be able to hire an administrative assistant,
Yeah.
which will take some of that relief off of us. And
Right.
I do think that if this town does not go for that, that you're gonna find even fewer people willing to
I
stretch
see it.
their
I see that
personal
happening.
time.
And I just feel that maybe there's an hourly rate that we should get towards some of the.
That's we're elected, so I'm not gonna look at salaries
Yeah.
on it. However, if there are some grants and the BRIC grant, one of the things that we can do, just like with, because it's FEMA, is we can, if we're working on a hazard mitigation, we can keep track of our hours, and that would come out of the grant. We could be paid from the grants. So
That's
that's
a thought.
that's how that would work.
That's a
Yeah,
thought, but
that's a little bit of feedback, but not nearly,
I appreciate that.
when
No, go ahead.
it's appropriate for you to speak.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
My viewpoint at this time is that I'm of the opinion that everyone who works for the town in terms of being an employee deserves a sufficient adequate income. And I have specific numbers. I've got the budget rates. Well, this is for 221, which is 2021. And I know we've upgraded a little bit since then, but I would, when we get to talking specific amounts, I know since we are a member of VLCT and we filled out, Melissa was kind enough to fill out the report for them about the town's employees, that we match up our people with the range of salaries that's applicable to their role within the town. You know, yes, we as select board members work, but I know Mark's, you know, he is alone, he's done an awful lot. I know Melissa is adapting and learning, and she's here listening in the evening
Thank
when
you.
it could be her free time. She's responsive almost at any time. Judy's been extremely helpful, and Gwen, I would feel that I wouldn't want to take advantage of any of the individuals that I've mentioned, and I would ask that we keep our mind open for increases in their salary.
Mhm.
You know, they deserve it. I know Guy and Gwen have done stuff, you know, rake around the stairways out front and a number of other things that little things, trash, whatever it takes from the day. And it's an added effort. It's an honor they've bestowed on the citizens to do it. And I think there needs to be a little bit of respect for that. So I'm just asking we keep our eyes open to the possibility of paying everyone an appropriate salary for the responsibility that they have, not just how they're performing their job.
All right, well said, and
One last point.
Go ahead.
Put to bed. In the 9 years I've been on the board, the last 2 years, hell on wheels. That's a good way to put it. And people have left because of it, I'm sure. And now we're down to 3 people, and Mark, I appreciate what you said. But to tell you the quite truthfully, rather than having a stipend or more money, I'd like to see more help. That's where I'm at with it. And I don't think it's gonna happen, but I would be more than happy to entertain your thoughts of what you just said as well as a consideration. And we'll work that angle, because it's getting to be too much.
it's a lot,
No,
You know, and it's a thing.
no, excuse me.
Yeah, sorry.
I want to really be emphatic about this. It's too effing much for everybody. And if this town doesn't step up, somebody's gonna have to step up. Let it be known. Hear it from Bruce. People don't start helping. The next page will be turned.
all right, well, we
That's-
shall,
That's the last thing I have to say about this.
so now at this point, we should open up our budget sheets and start to go through the forms. Now, I know I have a budget sheet amongst all my stuff.
I don't
Where did I put it?
This switch happened. The point of
That's
it.
last year's. All right, do you have yours?
No, I don't.
You know?
I couldn't find it. I don't know. I didn't.
Oh,
My apologies. I looked around, I don't think I actually, I can make a copy of it real quick. Is that it?
That is it. We didn't change any numbers on it, but that is the blank budget.
Okay, but we're not going through the general right now.
We're
just
going through the
To the road fund.
road fund.
That's the only thing I need to know. I'll find it. I don't know where I. There's nothing well.
yeah. Sorry to hear that.
I'm not gonna talk. Things are breaking, things are not getting fixed. Things are happening. I'll get over.
I always do. That's good. That's good.
Nice, but you know, professional person, I guess, $11,000 and they're acting like it's the next guy. Really freaking nice.
I'm sure they're not doing it in.
No, they're not.
Whatever the system is.
But everything's about priorities too.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so Melissa, I printed out all these reports and 35 pages here and 12 pages there. Of course, I have to complain, the type is so small, it's very hard to read, but
You can see.
I know we have really spent quite a bit of our highway budget and a lot of our surplus because of the non-reimbursed FEMA expenses. I'm just really would love to get a heads up if we're really going into a devil's hole at any point during the next few months because of whatever, these collection of taxes and
She's gonna
everything
tell
else.
us.
Yes,
Well, right now, and I'm gonna make an adjustment on Friday, is it stands that there's like 32,000 in the highway fund that's available. But I'm gonna transfer over taxes of another approximately 50-something thousand, so that'll bring it back up to 80,000, a little more.
89,000.
89,000, 32.
She just said 32,
and
57.
50.
Yeah,
Okay.
32, and I'm gonna transfer 50-something over roughly. I'm not sure the exact figure.
Now, when you say taxes, that's coming from the real estate taxes?
Yep, so usually in the past, I noticed they've been doing it twice a year, but I'm instead trying to do it every quarter. So it just
I
kind of
know.
makes the highway fund a little more level and
Make
not look so
okay.
bad.
So at some point down the road, will that need to be made up in the tax account?
Nope, because that's what you guys budgeted for. So it's just gonna go from the general fund over into the highway fund like it's supposed to. Because all the taxes get deposited in the general fund. So I just need to do a transfer over into the highway fund. And then it'll start bouncing back and looking a little better too, if I do it quarterly instead of every 6 months.
Is the money that we raise by taxation that
For,
goes to the highway fund,
for the highway fund?
for the highway fund, so she's
Yeah.
doing it 4 times a year when taxes are
Rather than
collected,
half year.
rather than half a year.
That's great. That makes a lot of sense.
So we're looking at the summer highway salaries. We did do a significant increase this past year. We did not consider additional manpower. So I don't know, how do you want to do this?
Okay.
You get, I can run through the titles of everything.
Summer highway salary, basically, is Mark.
Correct.
Yeah.
Mark
But you
and-
got down $52,000 in the budget, which is high, considering, I can't say any numbers. Considering what's on invoice.
Well, the
Two.
base salary times 52 weeks is 46.8.
Right, I remember from last year.
So, and this is, we budgeted 52. I think there was perhaps several $1,000s for Mark's dad that over the course of the year materialized, which
Maybe.
from memory seems to be how he got the 52.
Maybe.
So, I would suspect that any help that Mark has would probably require he and or the board doing a job description, finding out what kind of things that it's going to entail. And looking at the responsibility and setting a pay rate. I'm not sure what that would appropriately be, but until we kind of do that, it might be hard to guesstimate. It might be a slight increase from this, but I wouldn't. It depends on how often we want that part-time person to be available and work, you know?
Is this something like would we say something like a 10% increase in it, or 5%, or?
Can't mention it.
The maximum number of hours were not worked. We don't have a piece of equipment for him to make that salary yet, because he can't work if he
Oh.
doesn't have the equipment.
Okay,
Don,
Yes,
Can I just add something? I'm looking at summer salaries at 16,855 at the end of period 5.
okay,
It appears that you're on track for that $50,000
Really?
that you had appropriated last year.
Well, then we're not gonna.
but so we're looking at, do we need to increase it for additional help?
We don't know that.
We don't know yet. All right, so let's move on then with this.
Are we gonna have this person that says, Mark, a certain maximum hours of the year, a certain maximum hours in the summer months? You know, that we've got to give some thought to that.
Yeah.
It would seem
there's a
to me.
coordination thing involved.
Yeah,
And it's gonna be involved with Mark too.
yeah,
Okay, we can leave that open.
Okay, we'll leave that open.
So basically, we're not changing that right at this point. We might be adding.
I've got
to
a
it.
question mark next to it to be
Right.
determined.
All right, the next item was summer highway employee mileage. It looks like it was the actual and what was budgeted is within 20 cents. But I do 1,499.8.
Oh, yeah, okay.
1,500. So I'm thinking with the cost of some of these, with the cost of the federal highway reimbursement went up. I think that we need to bring that number up at least $250, I would think.
Okay.
I don't have a
You've
problem with
obviously, you've obviously got that thought out.
1750.
1750.
Okay.
Summer highway it says grants.
Yeah, I didn't know what that was.
Well, let's keep
Listen,
going.
when it was 271010.13.
I believe it's salaries for grants.
Salaries for grant.
It doesn't look like anybody's budgeted anything for it, but somebody's slotted $60 for,
Now, I'm
Oh, I
wondering if
see.
that is the money that was spent for VLTC,
CP.
you know, for
CP.
the $60 that got put in for warrant 17.
Could you put that
Yeah.
1,500 in for Wyndham Regional? To assist with-
Well, there's no employee that
Were
deals
they-
only in summer grants. That's, you know, I guess one could consider the grants administrator to be a person doing this, but but I'm not an employee, if that's the only thing I can think of. I'm not sure why that is there. I
I'm
don't
not
think,
sure.
I don't think I
Unless-
found it in the prior year's budgets.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from, to be honest, but the only thing I could think of is unless somebody was using it when they were doing the match in kind for the grants. I don't know if you use Mark's hours for match in kind or something.
Have no idea.
Don't know. However, if we do hire, we are hiring Wyndham Regional Commission to help with the technical assistance for grants, and that budget should be 1,000, what was the number?
It's up to $1,500.
So I think we should put $1,500 in that line item, if
Yeah.
that's where we're going to be paying Wyndham Regional for that assistance.
It's summer payroll.
Can change the name on it if you want and just make it like WRC. Grant.
Yeah, grants administration fee.
Technical assistant, yeah.
Are you talking about the third line down?
Yes,
And we're changing that from 60 to 1,500, is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah.
And that's what, like what Mark was saying, is gonna come out of the grant,
Possibly, but we should budget for it.
okay,
Because if it I can't imagine it would exceed 1,500, but, that's a whole nother issue. We've agreed to allow Wyndham Regional's representative to handle, grants and aid, funded road improvements. And we can take up to $1,500 out of the grant to pay for their providing that service to the town. So there will be an initial expense, thinking this through and comparing it to one other grant I've done. There would be an initial payment for the full expense. And let's see, the grant is going to will be used to pay for the $1,500 out of the total of the cost. And then there's going to be a match.
And the match is what we never budget for. We never budget.
Never
for
budgeted for matches. Yes, that's right.
And you gotta have the money up front too to pay for the grant.
Wait a minute.
I don't know what the others are yet.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, yeah, Melissa?
You gotta have the money up front too, usually before you even do the
Correct.
grant.
Correct.
And we have others?
Well, yeah, I think that might be part of the documentation required up front in order to proceed along with the grant process. That I think they do require a proof that we can pay for it. But like our salt and shed grant, we pay for everything up front. Then we have to file the request for reimbursement at some point, and that's dictated by Wyndham Regional. They tend to want to do it one time through the year. At least that's my 1 year experience with them.
Yeah.
And then we get money back. But they're out of that is they don't give everything because we got a 20% match.
Yeah, you'd only get 80% back. You don't get everything
Right.
back each year.
Right, so I guess from my standpoint, I'd be dependent upon you to advise me, how that best works out for an accounting process.
You know, it's a tricky thing. We've just been lucky over in Newfane that we've had the extra money to pay for these grants ahead of time to keep doing it. Because we've had a large reserve.
But we don't have that kind of reserve.
We don't have a reserve. We also
Yeah,
have
so-
other grants that we hope to apply for, including our local hazard mitigation grant, which is a 75-25 FEMA grant. We don't know how much that will be either, or I think it's like $12,000. I do know how much it is. So.
Have we
that's
actually
another-
grant?
That's another, it was done in 2020, so that's another 4,000.
Okay, what do we need to do? All right, look,
So it's $3,000 to $4,000 grant match right there for the hazard mitigation grant. So this is what I'm concerned about. We don't budget for these things.
okay, what we should do is list them, put a number on them.
We don't have a whole list because they throw them at us here and there.
Okay, could we,
So we have to say no to some grants.
it is what it is. I mean, what are we gonna do? Put $50,000 aside? I mean, we gotta have some kind of a number, and we can't just turn away all the grants.
No, but I do think that we should consider budgeting at least the $1,500 for the Wyndham Regional and possibly another $3,000 for another match to the hazard mitigation grant. That would make it $4,500. And
If you're
we
feeling,
have a budget stabilization, $20,000 for an emergency if we need to match things up with.
that's true.
I don't know, how do you feel about putting grant match?
I think the process is valid, I guess, but that down near the bottom of the expenses for roads, we have WRC and BBR grants expense. And I am wondering if that is the match that's the expense, or is that the initial amount we pay out and then we need to resettle that with money coming back and the fact that ultimately there was a cost, which was the match. Again, from an accounting standpoint, we need to make sure we get those bases covered.
Dan, if you look just
Yeah,
above it,
all the expenses can go right in there, whether it's the match or whether it's the grant itself, because when you have it all
Okay.
together in the end, you need to make sure you spent the whole
Okay.
grant amount plus your match in order to get 100% back. If you don't spend the whole grant amount plus the match, then you always only get 80% back.
So if that's the case, then we don't even need Wyndham Regional Services changing summer highways something grants. 2.7.10.10.13, we may not need that. Is that what you're saying? Because the down below category of expenses covers that already?
No, those are like the actual expenses. So if you're working on, say, a road and you put materials in for one grant, you want that to go into that line item and label them so you know which they are, because they're gonna need copies of checks and everything now.
Yep,
so that's not a grant match down below. That's just our expenses.
apparently.
Yeah, we don't
Well,
have,
it says grant expenses.
Great. Well,
Yeah, you can put the
Expensive
match
to
in
put
there
playground on.
if you want, or you can put the whole thing in, whatever you want to do.
Okay,
Because there is nothing budgeted at all anywhere.
okay, so I
It's
guess,
kind of a placeholder really for me, so when you guys go to get reimbursed for these grants, we can pull them out of that line item easily and
Sorry.
identify them.
okay, okay. So I guess the third one down in expenses for highway, we do need Wyndham Regional Services as an expense line item.
And we're gonna do that at 40.
Yeah, because that's for assistance and things.
Okay, okay,
And you can put the match down below in that other one if you want to,
Okay, so.
because you are gonna need that money.
1,500 for the Wyndham Regional Assistance Services. And maybe the other, what was it, 3,000?
You-
3,000, 3 or 4,000. Or if the matches come very quickly, so you want to just be conservative and say $4,000?
Which line?
Which would be, we would add $4,000 to the 2-7-30-60.02 WRCBB Better Back Roads Grants and
Okay.
Expenses.
For how much?
And
8,000?
add another 4,000. I'm speaking loud only so that everybody can hear me on that machine. I hope I'm not blowing out your ears.
And that line item is gonna always look over budget just because you're putting in the other grant that's gonna be reimbursable, so.
Okay. Summer highway payroll, tax for highway would be dependent upon item number 1, summer highway salary, so we'll skip that right now, but that seems to have be coordinated with the summer highway salaries line item number 1. Right? Okay. Now, summer contract services and equipment. If we are going to, okay, if we purchase a piece of equipment, we won't need all of that. I don't know what to say about it.
Oh, boy. Okay.
well, that was a hard number for me to derive because it looked like in the report that Melissa was kind of trying to print out, we had rental costs and then we had highway job costs, which was materials and labor and the use of equipment that they perform the job. I believe the rental of equipment was just over $16,000. Excuse me, it was $16,035 to be in fact, what we paid Alta to rent the machine that was used for that time frame.
16,000?
Yeah, $16,035. And then the jobs that A.S. Clark performed, that apparently was materials, labor, and equipment. That number was, when you add the numbers up on that sheet only, was $35,163.50. So then the total obviously being $51,198.50. And there was another $660 for a logging job that was done. So the total came out to be $51,858.50.
Out of only 4,300 budget.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so something needs to, we need to decide what or how to approach that issue.
Would any of that, fall under grants, reimbursement in any of it, out of the 51?
The 19.9 was the grant for $6,700 on Hill Road. So the net difference there is roughly $13,000 on that. So the number of 51 can be reduced by $6,700.
And then Parker Road,
Parker Road, was that a FEMA? Are we gonna get reimbursed for that? No.
Well,
Yeah.
there's 2 different, Parker Road is FEMA, but there was also
should be some reimbursement there.
there'll be reimbursement for FEMA, yes, but we're in a situation now because we don't.
Yeah, I realized we had put it out there, but I'm just saying out of that, there's some hope for money kickbacks.
Yes, we will get money back from FEMA. When? I don't know.
Well, that's the
And when
thing.
that Was that big number, was that materials included?
Well, we got
No.
Bill, I'm sorry. Melissa, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was just gonna ask, that Basin Brothers, shouldn't that be moved to retreatment and sealing?
Yes.
Yes,
See, we moved to what? I don't know what you said.
Retreatment,
Retreatment.
paving.
you're absolutely right.
I don't know if you have the latest for summer contract services, but it's actually over budget by $67,854.
Yeah,
Maybe-
I have it here, yep.
And
That's FEMA,
Okay,
correct?
I think, and that's probably because of FEMA expenses.
well, if I take that $63,000 out and move it over to retreatment where it should be, then that'll bring it down to what, 5,000 over maybe? 4,000
Okay.
roughly?
Mhm. We budgeted 43,000, expenditures have it as 111,000 and puts us in the hole about 68,000.
When she's speaking retreat, she's talking about paving,
paving.
Payment, yeah.
that's what I thought.
And you
Okay.
said that
How much-
19.9, is that supposed to be a grant, you said?
There's a grant in the amount of $6,700.
Right there. That seems real sensible to me, Melissa, like. Since we got
So-
$45,000 sitting there, what do we put away, 30 a year with the paving? I think
So 19,999 minus $6,700 leaves a net expense by the town of $13,299. And I believe when I did the grants spreadsheet showing all of the grants that we have, that number, I believe, was in that presentation.
Mhm. Yep.
Now she's taking all that money.
So, and when we've got, so those are those two numbers, and if we go $2,750, which is Parker Road. And that's an 80-20.
Well, Parker Road, if it's FEMA, it should be 90-10.
90, okay, so I'm just gonna clear that.
Actually, we were told how much it was.
2,700.
We were told, we were told how much it was, close to $2,700.
Okay, so there's $2,700 they're gonna get back on that. They can come off.
But it's really hard doing this reverse budget.
Yes.
It's,
Well, it is, but unfortunately, that's part of the budgetary process, it would seem.
okay.
Well, she loves it bet on herself by pulling the money down to the retreatment part. So that's gonna leave us with about $5,000 in the.
So is the contract services, the materials gets pulled from contract services and taken out of highway materials?
Works like 60,000.
Well, I guess what Mark is bringing up is the point that we were kind of heading for in the first place is that number, summer contract services and equipment, I guess, is it for rental equipment or is it just contract jobs and what the total cost of that contract job is?
It can be whatever you guys have been normally putting it in there.
Because I don't see another topic of equipment rental.
Oh,
So we're mixing the cost of us to rent equipment for our employee to do the work. We're combining that number with the cost to the town of having the project done. And I'm not sure we should be mixing those.
Okay, so you want going forward to separate them out?
I think that's the way it ought to be, and not only that, but I believe when Mark, I, and Archie sat down with a rep from District 2, V-Trans, she wanted it broken out to know specific numbers, and I think to include equipment rental with highway costs is gonna undermine her formula for determining what we're going to be approved for. Yeah. Just thinking this through and trying to, okay, I was in a meeting and she brought up this, you know, I know I'm throwing things out. I wish I could be more helpful, but there may be another angle that Mark is alluding to And that I agree with Mark on it, that probably ought to be broken out into another category.
Okay, I can definitely do another line item and add equipment rental that you can budget for towards next year. It
Yes.
won't fix it for this year because it wasn't broke down before you guys started this.
Okay,
All right.
Okay.
I mean, I can break it down and move it, but it's gonna just look over budget. I don't know if it was budgeted or not from this current year.
We did have a budget last year for rental. I think we were in the vicinity of $8,000, if I'm not mistaken.
That's it?
That's all we spent previously.
right, 2 weeks.
We only had it for 2 weeks.
Now we
It
get-
was 6, and then found
Oh,
out
we
it
did.
8,100.
We had the real excavator.
Yes, but for 2 weeks.
Is that what we paid? We,
So is there equipment rental in this category right now?
I don't see it.
No,
I don't see it. No.
All
My
right,
initial, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, I'm just kind of looking, there's so many 19,900s that kind of go in and out. They almost look like they wash each other. I know Judy had problems with that check. I don't remember what it was. I think I'll have to touch base with her on that and find out what's
Okay.
going on.
and that's for summer contract services and equipment.
Yeah,
okay,
I think the issue might have been on that one is that when the contractor submitted the invoice, because it is a grants and aid project, the claim form, one of the closure documents requires it be broken down into labor cost, equipment used, and materials cost. There are 3 categories that need to be broken down into. So it went back, I think, or was on hold until we got that information from the contractor. Because the contractor came in here to pick up the check on a Friday night at 4:30 in the afternoon. And I think you and Judy were here at the time.
yeah, I was gonna say, I was here for that.
Yep, yep. So that's probably why you saw that a few times.
Okay,
So, I'm just trying to move us through here. So we're gonna pause on the summer contract services and equipment at this time as well, till we figure out.
I'm gonna put this
Now
one
it's split
on.
up.
I don't know how I'm gonna do it. Okay, highway salt and shed expenses. These were actually, there was nothing budgeted. And there was $30,000 expended, actual cost in the 2022 fiscal year period 12.
I have $3,273, not 32,000.
You're down one. See?
Salt shed expense,
There's something.
32,7380.
Or
The 6th number down.
Okay, $3,273.80. Thank you very much.
What was that?
There were probably some Wyndham Regional bills that we paid.
That's another category though, isn't it?
Nope.
So that is a grant expense. It's not just highway salt shed expense. That's what you're saying, Dot, right?
Well, I'm highway salt shed expense. What else would it be for?
Because I have gone over all of the invoices.
And that number's
And
not
that
part of
number
it.
is way too high.
Okay. Mark, what did you do last year on the salt shed that we would have? Expenses would have been electric, fuel.
There were no repairs done, were there?
Nothing of that.
Yeah, that's what, that looks like there's an error there somehow, something made its way into that line.
So you budgeted for zero.
all right, I can look that up if you want and let you know what that 3273 is.
Yeah, that would be good.
The only thing.
Currently, this year, there was $449.89 spent on that highway salt shed.
Okay.
Oh, you have a number for that
This year.
That's what's been spent so far.
so far, okay.
400, yeah, 49.89.
Something about pursuing the new salt shed, like something from Wyndham Regional or
It came out of that, you mean?
engineer or
No.
No,
I don't
no,
think so.
no.
All right, so she'll have to get back to us on that. And then I'll move down to the August 2021 flood contract services. No budgeted, nothing budgeted, but $29,564.50 actual. And this year, yeah, 20,488 deficit.
Was that the part of the money that you moved to the paving?
No. That's another number. So 29,564.50 is what has been paid just since July 1st on flood related items.
No, this is fiscal year 2022 period 12 is that figure. But what we have expenditures for this year, and correct me if I'm wrong, Melissa, but we have a deficit of $20,488.73 since the beginning of this year.
Yep, that's correct. And that was also in the contract service maintenances, and I moved it out and broke it out into its own special category for FEMA or the flood.
Right.
Wow.
So again, we're looking at budgeting for our to finalize or finish up in next summer, the FEMA damages. How do we want to budget for that?
How much is it?
Well, we're in the deficit of 20,500. I don't know how much it's gonna cost to finish the job. To
I know.
finish the summer work next after,
Oh. Pray we don't get a little hurricane.
yeah. I don't even have.
What sheet do you get?
I'm getting
$20,000
I'm getting it from the highway period 5, November, that she sent that on, she sent that on
Yes, I
the
saw that.
4th. Would you like me to
Okay.
make a copy of it?
Well, I think I handed to you. Okay.
Page 7 of 35.
Oh, yeah, I do. Okay, yeah,
Page 7.
got it. Well, it's on 3 of 5 on one I printed out, but, and it does match your number. 248873. Year to date.
Yeah. I mean, we can continue just going. Our amazement here.
Well, how much? Let's see, this is just for this year. Crap. I'm sorry. I'll retract whatever I'm thinking, I'll shut my mouth.
Speak, because I don't really know what to. We can continue on looking down summer and highway material. We budgeted 34,000 for the year, and right now we've already spent almost 20,000. So we have for the rest of this fiscal year about $20,000 to go through.
You said 34 and 20. Didn't you?
We budgeted 34.
Spent 20. Okay.
This year,
You said 20.
we spent 14,872.
Okay. that's
We
okay.
have about 19,000 left for the rest of the year. We continue down again, so that budget. And I'm thinking, we're looking at, I don't know, if you, I don't know how to make suggestions here. Summer highway materials, again, well, what we just said. Highway emergency. What is this material, highway emergency?
I think that's probably in case of, a thaw or a flood or.
All right, well, we had nothing budgeted, but we spent $1,200 and change on materials for highway emergency. And that's one of the things I put on our agenda. We should have a line item for road supervisor supplies. If he has to buy a wheelbarrow, if he has to buy a a power washer if he has to buy,
That should come out of ARPA.
you know?
My estimation, that should come out of ARPA.
Every
Sorry,
year.
did you put,
No, but he doesn't need that every year. He doesn't need a power washer every year. He doesn't need a wheelbarrow every year.
You know, you have to
Doesn't
speak
need a
louder
change.
so people can hear you, and I'm also very hard of hearing, it's getting worse. I have to say that.
I'm just thinking that those kind of items should come out of ARPA money, not out of, because it's a one-time shot, it's materials.
I think we need to have a
Tools.
budget.
Oh, it needs to be in a
We need
budget.
a budget for things.
That
Don't
kind of
you
stuff
know?
needs to be.
Don't you
budgeted.
budget for like, for your car for the year or some kind
No.
of, you can just, when you have an expense, you just pull it out of an emergency fund.
Hey,
We pay it too, but whatever you're gonna.
but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, you were talking about items like chainsaws, wheelbarrows, power washers,
Supplies. Hey,
tools, not supplies, tools.
Tools, yeah.
And I'm saying that the tools should come out of ARPA. If you're talking about gasoline or something that's, that has to be replaced, like, the string on a weed whacker or something like that, that's materials, that's not equipment. If you're gonna purchase something like a chainsaw or whatever, that should come out of ARPA. That's my opinion anyway. I don't think it should.
And going forward, you
Because-
need to have some kind of. finance.
Sure, you want, I think you need that discussion, I don't wanna go forever on it, but I think you should have that discussion with Mark, with what he means, I mean, we don't need a budget $5,000 for something, we don't need. But
Well, we're looking at August
I'm
21 flood contract service, correct? Or are we beyond that now? I thought I heard we didn't know how we are gonna handle it.
Which one,
Should I even be
which one is this?
reflecting on that?
I
August
was looking
21
at
flood.
materials highway emergency. That's where we were at for $1,227.
I saw that in somewhere, yeah. Emergency, yeah.
that's not true.
Well, I think there needs to be a budget for that sort of thing. We're not gonna have ARPA fund forever. It's been budgeted in the past.
Even if it's $2,000,
That's
something along those lines,
So
that would be.
$1,000 or whatever, okay.
Now, we do have a rainy day fund, but I'm not sure that's even intended for that kind of thing.
No,
No.
that's for emergency.
So, is the titling materials highway emergency okay? And if we want to change that to a $2,000 line item?
So that would be what you're talking about, the materials, is what you pertain to. So
I think
some
the
of
highway materials is for like emergency gravel or something like that, in
Right,
case of an
that's right.
emergency.
right, that's not-
Small tools and equipment could be for something for Mark if you wanted.
Small tools and equipment, you would change the line item, okay?
Adding to a line.
Well, I don't know.
Small
Do you-
tools and
What
equipment.
Melissa's talking about is an additional one. I think.
Yeah, do you want materials, highway emergency, in case of an emergency or no?
Yeah.
How much should we budget for it? There's nothing budgeted. This is
I
why I'm
know. Well,
frustrated.
that's what we're talking about, how much was it? Excuse me.
Why?
There's $1,200 that we had to spend on an emergency fund, correct?
That's what was actually spent.
Where did it
None
come
I
from?
don't know, but what Melissa was saying could have been gravel or some materials that were needed in an emergency. It wasn't necessarily tools, that's what, if I understand correctly, that's why she was saying, split it up. and
Where did
have-
gravel come?
Yes. Yes, is the answer to that. So if you want to save $1,000 or $2,000 in that, what they call emergency fund there, have at it. But if you're gonna talk, what Melissa's saying, if I understand it correctly, there's a separate line item
Small
for
tools and
tools and
equipment.
that.
Yeah, $2,000. They said that, yes. So I don't really know. what
We're
this-
agreeing, is basically what I'm coming.
Yes,
I've already
we're
seen.
agreeing. I just don't understand this $1,200. Why?
You know, it's a shot in the dark. We may have a year or years where there are no emergencies and our
Right.
standard supply fulfilled the mission. I'm in favor of just simply, I noticed it's not on the budget status report, Highway Fund 2, but it is on the comparative budget report. And so I'm just wondering if we felt this was an issue, just inflate the number or increase the non-standard highway material budget by $2,000 and eliminate the emergency aspect of this.
And keep the small tools and equipment as a new line item.
Yeah, let's see, which sheet is this on?
It's not on anything, it's something she
Oh.
made up.
Oh, well, there probably ought to be a budget for that. I don't think we've done that in the past, have we?
Right, that's why I put it on the
Yeah,
agenda,
yeah.
that was a concern
Sure,
that we
I'm all
need
for
to have.
I'm sorry, I'm behind.
Okay,
So we're
so,
gonna do what?
well, listen, we're gonna put $2,000 in a new line item called small tools and equipment,
Okay,
and we will not budget for emergency funding for the highway in a year. Well,
okay.
we don't need it, I don't know about that, but, okay, so zero.
You still have.
Well, then,
$20,000.
if you think there's emergency materials, then tools and such is not the place to put the $2,000.
I think we're talking about, I would see
There should be.
the
full
1,000
budget.
for one and 2,000 for the other.
What'd you say?
Sounds fine to me.
What'd you say?
That we should put $1,000 into the materials highway emergency budget,
So you want
$1,000.
to keep that? Okay,
And then have a new line item, small tools and equipment, $2,000.
okay.
And as we increase the supplies that we have in Brookline, then we can modify that in 50 years, but we have nothing really.
Okay, sounds good.
Did
All
you
right.
put anything under summer highway material, the regular one? Did you leave that at 34 or? Did I
Summer
miss that?
highway materials, we have a balance. We put in 34, we have a balance of about $20,000 left for the rest of the year. What do you want to do with that? We didn't want to,
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you put a new budget number in there. That's what I was looking for.
okay, all right. So we actually spent $37,671 when we budgeted $34,000.
Now, would that have been because of the cost of redoing the ditches and stone and so forth that might not have gotten caught last year's budgeting?
Yes, it could have been, it would have been FEMA.
So,
And also one thing to remember is the cost of all products has gone up. As
right,
well as the trucking,
yeah,
all products.
Yeah.
So everything's gonna be a little bit more this time around. Talking with Archie today, he had mentioned that he thinks inflation wise for the budget, a 10% increase is not out of the question.
okay, that's good to know.
Total amount.
Yeah, look at 10%.
So if you got 100,000, you 110,000.
He put right across the board, everything.
Okay, so when we're done piecemealing this all out, I was gonna say argue, but then I get jumped. We can figure out how much past that we're at.
So I guess the question is, if we're gonna do segments of the road, in order to have the roads in town compliant by 2025,
Holy God.
so where all our ditches are below a certain or of a certain increase in degrees from even, we're probably gonna find ourselves in a dilemma where we need several $1,000s in stone and ditching costs through that year. So I'm wondering if we should increase the $34,000 number that was budgeted for 2023 by 35 or $4,000, bringing it up to 38.
I would concur with that. I do think that we're going to have to spend more on the same materials
We
and
still have like a half a mile on Putney Mountain.
to do,
To be stone line, we may get kickback from FEMA
right?
on that,
Uh-huh.
but that's.
We'll worry about
Same
getting too much
material.
money in the account when that actually happens.
Right,
We
yeah.
can take it off next year.
So
We don't have
And
it
if
now.
Archie's thinking of another 10, and Doc are thinking another 10%, I'm just wondering if we should just make it an even 40.
40?
What does that sound like to everyone else?
Considering yeah, I would say, all right, let's put that down for a summer highway material change, increase that to $40,000, knowing what we've had to deal with costs and such.
And part of that, like the crushed stone that we started doing for our winter thaws and mud season is also, I guess, considered highway materials.
Summer highway material?
Summer,
Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't broken down into winter.
Okay,
And so the crushed stone's been added to the normal crushed gravels that we apply in
Ah.
the summertime.
Okay.
So, the crushed stone seems to be working super well for
All right, so that will,
winter and spring.
mhm.
So, you know, we started out with a small quantity this year. We've added couple more loads, so, good to have a.
All right, so I think we concur with that, increasing that to 40. And Mark is right, if we get FEMA reimbursements, we can modify this in our next budget and come back down quite a bit.
Mhm.
All right, August flood materials, we close to $40,000 was spent. I don't know how to budget for that item.
There's nothing in the
Winter
budget.
salaries, I'm not sure how to budget for that item.
Winter salaries was changed all in one, wasn't it? The summer?
No, listen, you had to leave winter salaries and summer salaries separate, correct?
I don't see the point of it, but I mean, I don't know why everybody
That's what I
seems to
thought.
do it. And
I
they do it over in
believe-
our town too, and I don't know why. I don't know what the point it is.
I believe you and Judy or well, I had a discussion with somebody. And I believe it might have been Judy. And it's going back to the District 2 Highway Office in Dummerston. The T60 report that gets filed in mid-spring. In order for them to make the calculations to determine what we're viable for the upcoming year, they need to have it broken out that way.
Yeah.
So we don't have a choice in the matter. It probably would be so much more convenient if we didn't have to do that, but that's the rationale.
Okay,
It's like the breakout of summer labor or summer materials, materials and labor, et cetera. They use a calculation, and I can get you the sheet that she used if you'd like to have a better understanding. I probably ought to look at it myself just to re-familiarize it, but it's the V-Trans that's requiring that.
okay, something I've never probably been requested for the info then, for some reason, and maybe somebody else in our office has.
Yeah, I know Judy asked it for a reason, and it might have been where she was gonna put some of the costs into different categories and budgeting, and she asked, and it was a good time that she asked, because it was right after my discussion with the representative from Dummerston, from the Highway Division, and I had it right on the top of my mind, but I would have a real difficult time, other than what I've already said, elaborating any further on it.
All right,
Okay.
I'm gonna move us along here. Should we consider winter salaries, budgeting $2,000 for winter salaries?
Yes, I think so. I don't know what Mark thinks about that, or.
Yeah, I
Melissa.
mean, originally the 800 was for winging back snowbanks. I can recall that we set aside that with my winter salary
Mhm.
just for running the grader. And since we've done that, we've had warmer climate and it's turned into more work through the winter months
Right.
as
Um,
repairing soft roads. So
I
yeah, I
see.
think 2,000 sounds a little more.
Okay, because we did do 2,500, but we'll do 2,000 for the winter salaries. Winter employee mileage, I think we should budget the $300 that was actual last year.
Okay, sounds reasonable.
Winter payroll taxes will depend
Right.
on the needs here. Winter contract services. We know that the plowing, even though we increase our contract to 37,000, our winter plowing is 40,000 this year.
Yeah.
So I would suggest that we budget for what we're paying this year.
Sounds good to me.
$40,000 for winter contract services. Winter materials, again, the prices have gone up. We've been budgeting 21,000. It was 23,000 last year. I think it went closer to 25,000 this year.
Mhm.
I would suggest that would be
All right.
what we would put in there.
I got a question there on the winter contract service. I know 40 was just snow removal. We had a winter flood issue, the last winter up on Athens Road where culvert plugged and we ended up having to have contractors come in and do the repairs to that. So I don't know if you want to count for something out of the ordinary or if that's
It's
set
like
up
an
as
emergency fund.
emergency.
That wouldn't have involved the culvert that you guys replaced this summer, would it?
No, this was up further.
Uh,
At Mr. Slater's address, I can't remember the number, but
Oh, yeah,
culvert plug that sent the water down the road to the next culvert over the bank and it ate up the road enough to have equipment come in and dump trucks.
So you're looking at winter looking at winter contract services to go from,
I mean, it was.
oh, wait,
it was an
winter
emergency
materials?
Situation,
Mhm.
so.
Well, okay, well, winter contract services and equipment is not just for plowing, you're saying it was for other things. like
Well,
emergency,
Yeah, I
so,
don't know if you wanna leave room for something just in case.
it's an interesting suggestion.
well, what do you suggest?
I don't think we can plan for every little emergency, that's my opinion. You know,
I mean,
it happens, it happens.
Yeah,
What are you gonna do?
Yeah, I'm thinking that,
I guess you got the rainy day fund.
if we have to as an emergency, let's
Right.
stabilize it, and then hopefully our FEMA's will come in there and that will
Yeah.
balance it all out. All right, so I'm gonna move on, looking at the time here, winter materials, we said $25,000. Then town shed electric, looks like it should probably go up to maybe 500. Probably $100 more a year, so 550 for
Electric?
electric at the town sheds,
Sounds fine.
$550.
Prudent.
Town shed maintenance. We budgeting 1,000. I think that would be sufficient, especially if we consider we're going to maybe be improving that building at another time.
Maybe I'm gonna plan on it.
Okay, seminars, highway employees, let's leave that at 200. Highway insurance expenses, I don't understand, Melissa, if we budgeted $4,000, we did so for a good reason, but we only spent $35 of it.
That one I will have to look into. Maybe it went into the general fund. I'd have to see where Judy might have coded it to.
Okay, because I'm looking at the current year period 5, it's 4436 budgeted. And we haven't spent anything yet.
What is the insurance actually for? Like,
Highway insurance expense, I don't know if that is for the equipment that we insure.
yeah, that I don't know. I'll have to definitely check with Judy on that to see.
Okay, very good. Stormwater management permits. Okay, so the permits are pretty consistent. It looks like
I think
500, 500, and then 240. Looks, I think that, remember we had to pay $500 for the permits. So probably keep the same.
500?
Well,
what you're saying?
we spent 1240, so maybe we should do
Oh.
1250.
Yeah.
$1,250,
Sounds good.
which would be $10 more than we actually spent last year, just to cover the difference in cost. Equipment, fuel, parts, and maintenance, we budget 4,000. Last year we spent 35, and we upped the budget to 4,500. Should we leave it at 45?
you know, prices of fuels and gases have gone up.
Yeah.
It's starting to go back down again.
And we now have
Who knows?
the leak blower and
Other things. So you want to go up $500 on that
To 5,000.
to 5,000?
thinking, you know, we rented a little longer this year than the year before, so
Oh, that's right, we have to pay for the gas of that, don't we?
Yeah,
Okay,
diesel.
okay,
You've already spent 4,000 almost this year in that
Yeah.
line item.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Ooh.
All right, so
And we sign up. And we gotta go to the end of June for $500. Okay, correct?
oh, we
That's budget.
spent 3,000, yeah.
Because Melissa just said we spent
Ah,
$4,000 already.
yes.
Almost,
And
yeah.
we budgeted 4,500, we only got 500 left in the budget till the end of June. Uh-oh. Guess what, Mark? You're not working.
All right, so that doesn't, so,
That's
all right, so it's 4,500, so you think we should do 5,500?
Ooh.
you know, I wouldn't have a problem with that,
What are you gonna
because
do?
we have no idea, gas prices in the last 2 weeks have gone up.
And now they're starting to come down.
And,
It'll
you
go
know,
up
the
again.
concept is that, you know, we're gonna direct more of the barrels to heating fuel for the winter, which is gonna leave less fuel for cars and so forth, which means the price is gonna go up. You know, it just doesn't,
All right,
never ending bad.
so we'll increase that by $1,000.
Okay,
Road signs and miscellaneous, Mark, we budget $1,500. Are you happy with that amount?
Yeah, I think, are we actually only spent 245
Right.
for the state?
so should we lower it?
Yeah, I mean, I know we have some signs that could be upgraded, I held back.
Right,
Not
but-
knowing
all
where
right.
we're at.
Then why don't we just make it 500? No?
It's,
Well,
over $100 a sign,
Yeah.
and they get 4 or 5 stolen a year
Okay.
easily.
and, I wouldn't mind, and I think it falls under this category, upgrading some emergency signage that can move around town during emergency
season?
situations.
Yeah, like
That's right.
tripod signs and then work
Roads,
signs,
roads closed and.
closed roads,
yeah,
okay.
people
Okay.
signs, home.
So what are you saying, Doc?
Leave 1,500, leave it at 15.
Sounds good.
All right, culverts, our favorite thing. We spent 11,000 on culvert.
Nah.
Okay, culverts, we budgeted for this year $6,000. We spent 7,475, so we're already in the hole for that. I do think that the culverts, especially if we're gonna be trying to meet our hazard mitigation, that this says $10,000 over here. Oh, boy.
Well, are we gonna get reimbursed for the 3-foot diameter one?
We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know.
Because that would be a good part of that number. And that was an out of the ordinary size culvert that we.
So do you think that the leaving it at 6,000 is good, or should we increase it to another number?
I know the cost of the 18s are up, I mean, they're all up, so if we could maybe,
Go up to 1,500 on that maybe, because that would be,
I think that'd be fair.
equivalent to what we're in the hole for right now. So 7,500.
Yeah,
Retreatment and lines, $45,000 is what we put in every year.
45.
We increased it last year. We still, like just doing Grassy Brook Road, that was 61,000, and then Putney Mountain was another, so I would think to leave that alone and maybe not do paving next year. We'll see just crack treatment and repairs.
Now-
Melissa took some out of it
yeah,
to make up for the loss.
the
Yes.
stuff out next to the West River was actually in their budget, is it? Or-
We budgeted $45,000 for the year, but any additional, it would have cost 61,000 to fix it.
I think it was 64.
We sent Baden in 61.
64,000 maybe.
I think it was
Yeah.
64, but it could have been, I don't know, it was in the low 60.
Yeah,
Alright.
so I would probably leave that number in hopes that we're not going to be doing much in the form of,
45?
I do know there is some, places that will need it in the future, but.
right. Okay, bridge maintenance is always, bridge maintenance, is that the washing of the
I think so.
Green Iron Bridge and such, so.
Fire
And
departments.
we haven't been billed for that yet, so that's $3,000 annually.
I'm not even sure they did it, did they?
I think they did.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure they did. Somebody commented on it.
Mhm.
Okay, Parker Road grant expenses. I don't think we have to budget for that because we're not doing necessarily a grant
Correct.
there.
We get a break.
That's where we're gonna, yeah, that's where we hopefully get that $2,700 back.
Back. All right, we will leave the WRC and Better Back Roads grants expense at $4,000. Miscellaneous bank fees. And we'll leave that at 0. Bond principal, 10,000.
That's,
Interest,
yeah, that's, now you're talking interest.
interest, I don't have, I'm sure I have it somewhere. Was that more
I
like
think so. We
can look up the-
$3,200? Interest.
I saw it in some paperwork.
I wanna say it's up over 2,200, 2,300. I've got a bond schedule at home.
I do also.
Okay,
Let's look at the bond schedule and place in that column what the actual schedule says to be
okay, yep,
determined. Yes, the interest rate, we can actually get that actual amount.
Yep.
Okay, and then the small tools and equipment is $2,000.
So have we pretty much filled every slot? Except for the top.
Summer highways, summer payroll, which is linked to the highways. Summer contract services and equipment, we didn't.
you didn't put a
discuss.
number in for summer payroll, did you? I don't-
Summer payroll would be co-joined with the highway salaries, right?
Yes, yeah, yes, it would. And do we have a number for that?
Well, we're not sure how we're gonna,
Summer highway salary, that's the first line, to
yes.
be determined, okay.
I think we could probably continue using that number because it is based on the math.
52?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would leave that at 52,
I feel comfortable there.
and then the payroll would then be the same at 39.
Tax, yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
and then summer contract services was, what did you have on notes for that, Stan or Bruce?
Well, that's where we ran into those two categories, rental,
All
and
right.
then what we,
Split.
what we paid to A.S. Clark and such. And that number is, was
a little under-
totaled up to 51. That was 30 plus thousand, and then the $16,021 or something like that.
46.
So maybe
Whatever.
that should be 46,
Just gonna find those numbers again. I
30,
have too many
40,
papers here.
30 and 16. Yeah.
So then you just like throw it in. Other materials are on that. And the only other thing is.
Yeah, I'll
The
go-
insurance is the only thing we need to fill in.
insurance, Melissa's gonna check on the insurance.
Okay.
And the flood materials, I'm thinking that we don't know how much it's gonna,
I've got those two numbers.
okay, go ahead.
The equipment rental was $16,035. And the materials and labors for the projects that were done in that category were $35,163.50. And then there was tree clearing, 2 projects that were done. The total of those was $660. And the grand total was $51,858.50.
So $52,000,
So
so
we're at 52 roughly.
that's up 11,000. No, it's up
No,
9,000.
So is that what we're gonna put down at 52?
It makes sense, 52 is what we
And it
said.
might go around, yeah,
52,000.
5 numbers.
So I'm sorry, what were you doing? I couldn't quite hear the whole thing.
We don't know.
We,
You have a clue.
we looked at summer contract services and looked at the rental costs, which was a little bit more than $16,000. And the services contracts that we had, which was a little bit more than,
$35,163.50 for contracted summer work for another entity to come in town and do the job.
and
And then
Okay,
then,
there
and
was-
you wanted that broke out separately this next year, right?
yes,
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
okay, rental, summer contract, and, all right, so we're gonna put down 52,000 for that.
I'll maintain the numbers that I just quoted for our meeting with V-Trans in the spring, so hopefully I won't have to trouble you for that breakout at that time.
so should I put 16,000, whatever it was, in the rental and then the remainder in the contract service? Is that how you're breaking that 50?
Yeah, $16,035. If you don't mind doing that, that'd be great.
Okay,
And then again, there's $660 for services for trees, fallen trees in
Right.
town.
So for just for shits and giggles, we're gonna leave that one slot 52 grand right now.
Yes,
Yeah.
52, correct.
Okay.
And then the highway salt shed expenses, we decided
that.
leave that zero.
Just a question on that.
Go ahead.
Should we start a fund to, in case you ever wanna do, make a replacement salt shed down the road that you can add to?
No, we'll take that out of ARPA money. We haven't determined that yet. You're talking about the replacement of the salt sand shed?
Well,
That's what we're talking about?
Just,
To
yeah,
start.
maybe like a single
Dedicated.
bag. Keep the one you got and just do a salt bag. Salt.
Yeah, but we.
Well, we have $8,000 that's in an account that was put in way back when the concept was first started.
It's in the minutes.
I talked to Archie about that and he said it was appointed.
It was
Yeah, we used
appointed
it.
somewhere, it was put into the budget, it
It
just,
was put in for a concrete floor for the grader shed.
I think so.
Correct.
Then it was moved toward the.
salt
new
sand
grader-
shed,
Salt sand shed,
which is what we were spending with the regional.
But because it wasn't used, it may have to get reappointed back to whatever.
Yeah,
Unless you use it.
I wonder if a question like that to enter into a concept or proceed along the way of a salt shed addition is a decision that might best be on the agenda or the list of warrant items for the town. Because we're gonna have to advise them, we terminated the contract on the larger shed.
They even
We
know
need
that.
to, well, I don't know, but we shouldn't be leaving them in the dark either. You know, that should be an advisement somewhere, whether it be in the selectmen's report, the highway department report, or whatever. You know, and in the town report, that should be
Well,
there, I
if you're-
think.
If you're encompassing the $8,000, we have to explain that. If it's available.
Well, it's already there, it's just a matter of where do we want to put it, right? That's
It's
the
still
question.
there. It's still there.
Yes,
Dot has an.
I voted. I was on the board when Jimmy Rogers did the $8,000
Yeah.
recommendation, and I was the chair when when that wasn't happening, we went with the salt sand shed. We
Right.
took that $8,000 and we put it into for the Wyndham Regional work to plan. I don't have the minutes in
Now
front
it's
of me, but
absorbed.
I
well, it's, when you go through the budgets, I do see it as a line item in one of the categories. And I forget what it's called. If I looked through the paperwork here, I probably could find it.
yeah,
but-
all right. So leave it open at this time.
Yeah, we need to do something with it, but just what I don't.
All right, so I know we're running late here. I'm gonna just finish real quick. I just want you to take a look again at the agenda. There were some things like road discussion supplies. We talked about that, road equipment budget plan, culvert replacement needs, plowing, sanding, salt contracted. So the salt and the sand contracts are part of winter materials. We budgeted for that.
I'm sorry.
Okay, you're going back to the list, okay.
Winter contract services, I guess.
Where,
Winter material,
Winter
but
materials.
so that would be salt and sand.
That's 21, okay, so that goes
25
with
then.
25, okay, very good,
You're at 25 on that?
yeah,
yeah. And we increased the ditch, the stone road building materials, crack ceiling we left alone. All right, bond principal, we talked about purchase power discussion. We're gonna have to, the Vermont Bond Fund, that has to be applied for by December something.
I'm sorry, what are you talking about?
I'm just looking at this agenda thing.
She's looking at the,
I see that, and I wasn't sure what it was addressing.
Remember, we got an email from Guy that says that the Vermont Bond Company is having I don't know if it's.
They're offering small loans for.
Yes.
For minor remote projects, I think so,
Correct.
and or equipment purchases.
Right, equipment purchase.
But based on what our last discussion at our last meeting was, I'm not so sure we even need to entertain that.
Okay, thank you. I think one less thing for us to worry about.
Yes.
All right, so when we came to the agenda, which we got everything done on page 1. Item 7 we did items 8, communications and emails. Very quickly. Okay.
we're coming from me. We didn't decide what we're gonna do about additional meetings.
Oh, additional meetings.
It's 5A.
We have a meeting, unless you want to have another meeting in November, but
We'll know by, we'll know by.
We did good here, though.
We did good. We'll know by the end of the first meeting in this December.
Yeah, no, we're looking.
Oh, December 1st, it's
Oh,
Thursday,
boy.
instead of Wednesday.
Oh, boy.
December 7th is our first.
Ooh,
Okay,
That's why I'm looking here.
7th and 21st.
well, we haven't,
Where are we at now? You've got, if I could just recap for a second.
We do
We pretty much-
appropriations.
Yeah, we're in it. We pretty much got all the numbers for this. Yes, except for the insurance information, any moving around a little bit. We
Right.
basically got the numbers for that. We basically got the numbers for the general fund, except anything that was missing from the town clerk, correct?
Right.
Okay, so we got those two. Now, next is ARPA. So if we,
I hope it's not part of the.
I'm not, excuse me, appropriations.
Yeah, appropriations.
I got it in my brain. I want to spend that money now. I'm kidding. The appropriations we do on the 7th and a sum up. And anything that's loose end, and we still have the week of Christmas week to really conclude everything in terms of the budget.
So on the 7th, we're going to do
Appropriations,
appropriations.
which shouldn't be take long. Appropriations are quick. Just say no to everybody.
I would hope.
We're done, right, Melissa?
Yeah,
Just say no to everybody. Come around.
works for me.
Appropriation requests, budgetary items, and to be determined. But now we still have to do the minute review unless you want to table that this week, on November 2nd. And
That's good.
emails are
No,
regular
do it.
emails. I'm gonna very quickly
Do it. It's a short,
I'm gonna pass around the mail. We have a couple of thank yous.
it's a short.
For appropriation receipts, and we have a couple of new requests for appropriations.
You put in a pile and do it on that day.
Okay,
This is all appropriation?
no, some are appropriations, some are thank yous, just the mail.
Okay.
I'll look at it.
All right,
The more I do today, the less I have to do later.
great, mail, regular mail, so that's done. All right, review the, you can also review the minutes then.
Okay.
My binder fell apart, so I'm sure. Minutes from the beginning.
This person wants to purchase our own school house.
I don't know what
What was
I
that?
don't know what that is.
I think we should just,
Sounds-
we read it.
Purchased around the schoolhouse?
So it looks like.
No.
It gives us, no, it gives us land purchase, it gives a GPS coordinate.
They want to purchase the land.
All right, you have your minutes.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. I only have one change.
308.
I have them, I just have them.
This page.
What are you doing?
I'm trying to find my minutes so that I can say page 1, page 2, page
Okay.
3.
Okay.
And I am overwhelmed here. So,
Well, if you don't have what you do next time, we can use it.
I don't have them here.
All right, let's just table it. Sharon,
You have yours?
No, I would like them.
I had nothing, I looked at it
It's all right,
before
don't
when we
worry
came
about
in here.
There's only 4 pages and 3 pages.
Right. I can look at them. Is anybody, okay, let's review the minutes from November 2nd's select board meeting. Does anybody have any changes to page 1 of 4?
I don't have any changes.
Me neither. Does anybody have any changes to page 2 of 4? Bruce?
Very top of the page. Accounts payable wasn't seconded.
The accounts payable on page 2,
Should
it
be
was
second,
just
right?
second.
Wasn't seconded. There was no second. It's amazing I even saw it.
We'll have to watch the video.
You have it?
No, I didn't.
It's at the very top, when you're doing accounts payable.
Yeah.
There was no second. The other one was seconded, but that one wasn't.
So what do we do then? It was approved because the accounts payables were sent out.
I don't know, I just saw it in the minutes.
It unfortunately might have been missed. I do
Because you
seem to
did it with
recall
the
that there
recording.
was a second. But I don't know who did it. I don't know if it's me or Bruce. I'll watch the tape. It's not gonna be far into it.
Okay.
No,
All right,
so-
Peter, so we don't know who did the
Wait, so
accounts payable seconded on the minutes.
Peter's gonna,
And we're going to, I know he's gonna be,
Okay.
he's watching
yes.
the recording.
Oh, it's right.
And so he watched it from the recording last time too. So we will have to confirm that, but any questions or any, on page 4 or 4? 3 or 4?
I have no idea what, under the term time clock, he says, Mr. discussed a check dated July 1. There was discussion, a time clock would be required for all employees or none. I don't know what that relates to either. I'd be happy to look at the tape and see what that's all about.
Well,
And just obviously a need for a change, I think.
All right, I'm gonna table the approving of the minutes from the November 2nd meeting until next month so that we can have an accurate, those 2 items. Is there anything else the select board would like to cover?
Only on page 1, there was a second gentleman who was involved in that declaration of inclusion. And for public, the name Al Wakefield should be added because he was the gentleman that came
yes.
later on into the
Yeah.
page. So that's the only change I have on 1. There was another number on another page that didn't make any sense to me.
Well, we'll go over it all next meeting.
Yeah,
And we're gonna have a meeting on the 7th, nothing before.
And let's see how it happens.
I wouldn't mind
So what's-
meeting, well, I guess the 7th, it would just, if it,
Sam,
yeah,
if you wanna sit down, I would like to sit down with
Yes.
somebody
Yes.
and
let's do it.
together, get the numbers in there, so that's
Because you already have it.
fun.
You just gotta read it.
Yeah, just be good.
And then we come to the 7th,
We'll be all
we just-
smooth sailing.
smooth sailing,
All right.
appropriation.
I'm gonna take time, sometime between now and the middle of next week to put this on a current spreadsheet on the computer. So as we're going through,
Amazing.
we can just simply give it to Melissa and or share amongst ourselves.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, at this time, I'd like to, I'm gonna make a motion that we adjourn this evening's meeting. Can I have a second?
Second.
Bruce
Good
and Stan
try,
at the same
good
time.
try, good try. It's not-
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks, Melissa.
Good night.
Spit on your hat.
This is local 686. This local was the. first
Recording
local I was
stopped.
Involved in, they were basically out of Lowell, Mass. And then the guy that was.
I'm sorry, sir, you get your
General
name?
Secretary.
Steve.
Doug,
I'm
yeah.
Stan.
Thanks for-
You have to go to Keene, do you, or you're close
That's
by?
the other half. That was like late for night. Yeah. And then we're done.
Yeah.
Josh.
Josh.
Yeah.
you can go.
Yeah, I might be doing more of this. I don't know how much.
I see.
Probably should,
Great, great, good. You
And
delightful to work with.
that guy. I think Jim Howell runs the union, he was my business agent. Oh, we go back a long, long
That's
way.
fine. Great.
I haven't talked to him in 10 years, and one of these days I'm gonna call up and give him a bunch of cards. Not gonna be for a while, that's for sure.
Yes, Stan, so I am.
So you're gonna spreadsheet this?
Yeah,
You've been
yeah.
doing
I like
terrific on
that.
that organization.
And then we'll see how close we are to that 10% figure that Mark was talking about. I think it's going.
If you wanna, Stan, if you get together that last
mind?
week in November,
Yeah,
any of those